back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Please be joined by RJ Starcevic from the NASCAR Report. If you're on Instagram, you would know what that is because because the drivers like to use his posts in their stories. Good stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. New year, 2022, kicking off the show with, I'm sure, with a bang.
Yeah, we just if you haven't seen our Front Row Motorsports preview, that's on the channel right now. But now we're going to talk some trucks because why not? We're going to talk some about GMS Racing. There's a little bit of there. I don't know if you know this, they went through a makeover.
Yeah, they did.
They did. So they went from 5 full-time trucks down to 2 right now. It looks like, from my understanding, it's only going to be 2. I know Mike Beam said there's going to have 2 trucks. Grant Enfinger comes over from ThorSport. Jack Wood, of course, who was in the GMS system last year, began the season running in ARCA East, went to ARCA, then went to trucks, and now is full-time trucks. Very unique story. It's a good one. But let's start with Grant Enfinger, the biggest free agent, I think, in the truck series, besides, Zane Smith going to Front Row, is Grant Enfinger heading back to GMS. That was a huge move because if you can remember, he was part-time last year, kind of. When he was not in the 98, he was running the 9 truck for Cody Robaugh and CR7. Now he's back in the Chevy stable, running full-time for GMS, back to the team where he got won his ARCA championship and also won his very first truck race at Talladega back in 2016. It's a big deal. It's always good to come back home. This was a massive, when we first heard about this, I don't know what to really think about this, but what did you think when he signed with when you knew that he was going to be there?
The first thing that I thought when this move had came about, I really think it's a good situation for both sides, because you look at Grant Enfinger, as you mentioned, sort of like part-time. He ran 21 out of the 22 races last season. He missed 1 start, which made him ineligible for the playoffs. If he would have ran that race, he would have made it by a country mile. I mean, the guy had racked up points like crazy. He was the highest non-playoff driver in the standings and still missed a race. But when you look at Grant Enfinger, GMS Racing, we know what GMS looked like last year, where all their drivers have went. It's pretty much a full rebuild of the driver roster. And we know that they're getting into things on the Cup side as well. So to have an established truck driver still in the program like Grant Enfinger, and this is exactly what he was looking for, a full-time gig in the truck series, somewhere he can go run for a championship, because he's made it known this is where he wants his home to be, here in the truck series. And he gets that with basically championship winning program, championship winning equipment, driving the 23 for GMS Racing. And they're going to be able to focus on that truck a lot because, like you noted, it's really only supposed to be 2 full-time trucks next season.
And he is sponsored by Champion Power Equipment.
Oh, yeah.
The theme of saying champion, that's kind of like I was kind of going with that. It's kind of fun. And of course, they came on board. This is a multi-year deal. The thing is, I know Grant has said in the past, we hope this never happens again, where he has to have that happen. Now, of course, as Champion Power Equipment and many other sponsors didn't know what COVID was going to look like. Obviously, we didn't know how, at the time, we didn't know how effective the vaccines were and all that. And as, with the distribution and all that. So a little bit up in the air, but now Grant Enfinger knows what he's doing for at least the next few years. And it's a huge deal to know where you're going to be next few years. And this is kind of a big thing. I know he had some success at ThorSport, but I think it just feels like he's back home.
Yeah, back home at GMS, a place where, he had been before. A lot of people kind of forget about that too. He's already been there, already made a home at GMS Racing. Now he returns, and, his teammate is going to be a rookie who did get the benefit of the doubt, had a lot of starts last year. So he does have some experience, but Grant Enfinger is really going to be the ultimate veteran on that program. And they're probably going to have some more resources to use as well, with just a few programs in the series. But I like it overall. Grant Enfinger, I mean, we know the type of driver he is. We know he's been in the championship picture before over in the 98 at ThorSport. And I think even better things, especially like you said, with the job security, he knows where he's going to be the next 2 years. Definitely championship favorite for 2022.
I'm excited. We're going to be talking to Grant Enfinger later this week, so it's going to be fun for that. Stay tuned for that. That'll be it's sometime later this week. So yeah, stay tuned for the channel for that. Yeah, well, Grant Enfinger is going to be in the 23. Jack Wood is going to be in the 24. Jack Wood's an interesting story out of himself. The last time I talked to Jack Wood was when it was announced that he was going to be full time in the trucks, and it was a big day for him. I know that with him, and I think I asked him about like 2 years ago, where do you think you were doing at that time? And he was like, I was walking out of the Mercedes dealership I was working in California. To go from that to, he was still racing at the time, but when you're trying to make it in racing, you're doing all these different jobs and all that stuff. And then the path that he went from ARCA East to ARCA to trucks in just a matter of months.
Yeah.
And now he's full time in the truck series. And obviously we knew a lot about what Jack could do. Obviously, a big part of Jack's career is a name that a lot of NASCAR fans would know. That's Ryan Reed, of course, who was his driver coach and basically his manager. So the thing is, I think, what do we expect out of Jack this year? Because I think this is going to be another learning experience for him, because this is his first full season in the truck series.
Yeah, like this is his first full season. He got, about 12 starts last year because of the fact that Rafael Lessard was slated to be in that car for the majority of the season. Didn't work out. They brought some drivers in here and there to compete in the truck, but ultimately they ended up giving Jack Wood a very large handful of the starts in the 24. So I think that helps. While that helps him definitely experience-wise, but it's going to be another learning year in the truck series for him, especially when we go through the field at some point. I'm sure we will before the season, once we have it all set, of the competition that's going to be in the field. I mean, you got a lot of guys, including his own teammate, Grant Enfinger, that are going to be really strong. But I think Jack Wood, to even have Grant Enfinger to lean on, to have, to be in the GMS program for a full season, it's going to be some learning. I mean, we saw it last season, some GMS trucks struggle at times. It's going to be a big learning experience, but I think he'll be able to get some solid finishes. I thought we saw him come on stronger towards the end of the year for sure. Ended up racking up a top 10 towards the end of the season. So Jack Wood, definitely not going to expect him to be championship favorite, but it's definitely going to be another learning year, I think, for him as well. A lot of competition next year in trucks.
Yeah, it is going to be. But let's talk about, GMS has kind of dipped their toe in a lot of things. This is, I think, the first big year that they made the jump up with the Cup Series. It's not GMS Racing in the Cup Series. It's Petty GMS. So obviously partnering with Richard Petty and what was formerly RPM. And so now it's Petty GMS. Of course, Maury Gallagher now has the majority stake, bought it from Medallion Bank, Andrew Murstein. And so now that team is called Petty GMS. Of course, Ty Dillon, Eric Jones is there. But this is about the truck series, but they're also in the ARCA series as well with Daniel Dye. But now this is an interesting year for them, because they were a 5-truck team at this time last year. Now they're just a 2-truck team.
Yeah.
How big is that? How big of a change is that, you think, in there? Because I know that they were doing this because they didn't have I'm just going to say this. They had a good year. They didn't have the year that they had in 2020, where they just flat out dominated everything.
Not at all. There was a lot more competition that came about, whether you can say KBM having a resurgence was a part of that. Obviously, ThorSport were our champions. The 38 truck was fast week in and week out. But you look at the GMS Racing trucks down the roster that weren't Zane Smith or Sheldon Creed. You had the 26 truck, 16th in the owner's points. The 24 truck, which was a rotating seat, 18th in the standings. Then the 23 truck, 22nd in the owner's standings. So they probably looked at that. Also looked at the move with them going to the Cup Series, like, okay, this is a big move here probably don't need as many trucks here, especially if we can get a guy like Grant Enfinger to come in and be our full-time driver. But I honestly like it, definitely with what they're doing in Cup. Downsize in trucks, there's no need to have 5 full-time trucks going at it, especially with the competition they had. I definitely like it, and I definitely like what they're doing on the Cup side. I mean, the relationship they have now with the Petties, the 42 and the 43 car. You got Ty Dillon, Eric Jones, both like I think you can consider them both young veterans. That's what Tommy Joe always tells me. They both young veterans. They've been around the sport for a while. They're still very young. Ty Dillon's been everywhere. Eric Jones has been through Joe Gibbs Racing now with RPM. I think they're really set. I do agree with kind of the downsizing in the truck series, and I think it'll pay off in the long run.
Absolutely. So we'll get in. Well, the Petty GMS team will have its own kind of preview a little bit, but this is going to be there. So what do we think is going to happen
here? With Petty GMS
now for just the GMS truck team.
GMS truck team. Well, I think we're going to see a good year out of Grant Enfinger. I think he's going to go immediately hunt for the championship, which is what the team's mentality is going to be behind him. Their ultimate dream is back-to-back titles with Enfinger in that 23 truck, and they're going to try to season Jack Wood and continue to develop him and see where he goes as a driver, because obviously they brought him into their ARCA program last year, and now then making the jump to trucks, filling in, and now full-time in the truck series. So I think GMS trucks, I think they can have a good year. I feel like I'm sensing that they'll at times introduce a third truck in some races, maybe not the whole season, just for some guys to come and race, whether it's, it could be Chase Elliott, it could be, one of the Hendrick guys, any Chevy guy. GMS, they got ties with everybody. People just come in and race for them. So, but when we're talking about the 2 full-time trucks, I still think it'll be a great year for them in the truck series, and their ultimate goal will be Grant Enfinger. Definitely in the championship 4, they want to win the championship.
Well, here's the other thing. They're having they're going to have some alliances with a lot of teams too, and I forgot to mention this. They're of course their new partner BMR, Bill McAnally Racing, switched over to Chevrolet, so they're in the GMS shop. You have the Rackley team, of course, out of Nashville, the 25 truck. And then you have CR7, the 9 truck, which is going to be driven by Blaine Perkins. There's a lot of teams that are going to be kind of in that shop. Of course, BMR and CR7. The Rackley shop, of course, is in Nashville. But what about all these alliances that they have in there?
I think it's good. For GMS, we've seen it throughout the years. I feel like they've had different alliances with different teams, and now there's been a lot of new teams coming over. Like you mentioned, BMR is one of them. Because that was big change. BMR had been with Toyota for a long time.
12 years.
12 years. Now they make the move. Because they had everything. The development program, not just being aligned with Toyota. They had so many things going on. The development program. They were part of TRD. Now you make that move to Chevy and GMS, really putting their faith in this program. But I think it's good for GMS Racing to have all of these teams. They're helping them out. That could be part of the reason why they downsized anyways, because they're just going to have all these programs kind of under their wings. And I like it. I think it's helping a lot of programs in the truck series as well. Me personally, just looking at other smaller teams that are kind of growing on the rise. I like all these different partnerships. It really increases the competitiveness in the field and stuff like that. But I like it overall.
Yeah, for sure. That's gonna be good. All right, I like these previews. We did, of course, did one earlier, but we'll definitely talk about this, and then we'll. Of course, we'll have our team previews. We'll also preview the 3 series as a whole, and of course, ARCA as well. So we'll talk about that later on when more drivers are confirmed. There's still a lot of announcements that need to happen.
Oh yeah,
for the season. Don't say any of them.
You don't hear me.
But RJ Starcevic, thanks so much, man.
No problem.